He has billions of dollars, but is too afraid to touch his own front door. She has absolutely nothing, and she's desperate enough to eat deadly poison just to survive. Meet Kevin Vane, a pharmaceutical tycoon who lives in a sterile glass fortress, convinced the outside world is trying to kill him. But his safe, perfect bubble is about to burst. When Kevin catches a young woman named Sienna scavenging for toxic berries in his garden, he thinks she's crazy. He rushes out in a space suit to stop her, only to discover a truth that will shatter his reality. She wasn't trying to get high, and she wasn't trying to die. She was trying to find the poor man's version of a life-saving cure, a cure that Kevin's own company sells for $50,000. This story is a roller coaster of emotion. It's about a man who has to choose between his billions and his humanity. Will the man who is afraid of germs finally find the courage to get his hands dirty to save a life? Or will corporate greed win again? You do not want to miss the ending of this story. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are so excited to share this powerful story with you today. If you love good stories, please do me a huge favor, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us create more stories like this for you. We also love our global community, so please tell us where you are watching from in the comments below. We would love to know how far our stories travel. Are you ready to find out what happens when the billionaire meets the scavenger? Let's dive into the story. The house was quiet. It wasn't just the quiet of a library or an empty church. It was a perfect, heavy silence. There was no hum of a refrigerator, no creaking of floorboards, no sound of wind rattling the windows. Inside Kevin Vane's home, everything was completely still. Kevin sat in the middle of his living room. It looked more like the lobby of a very expensive, very futuristic hotel than a home. The walls were made of thick glass. Through them, he could see the beautiful Rocky Mountains. The trees were covered in snow, and the sky was a bright, sharp blue. It looked cold and wild out there. But inside, the temperature was exactly 72 degrees. The air didn't smell like pine trees or rain. It smelled like nothing. It had been scrubbed, filtered, and cleaned 9 times in the last hour. Kevin looked at his wrist. He wore a black watch that was actually a very expensive medical computer. It showed his heart rate, 58 beats per minute. It showed his oxygen levels, 99%. It showed his temperature, 98.4 degrees. Everything was perfect. Everything was under control. He picked up a steel cup from the white table. Inside was his breakfast. It wasn't eggs or bacon or pancakes. It was a thick, gray liquid. It looked a bit like wet cement. Kevin drank it in one smooth gulp. It tasted like chalk and fake raspberries. He didn't like the taste, but he didn't drink it for enjoyment. He drank it because it was safe. Real food was dangerous. Real food grew in dirt. Bugs walked on it. People with dirty hands picked it and packed it into dirty boxes. Then it was cooked in kitchens that had germs everywhere. Kevin didn't take risks like that. He was the owner of Aegis Pharmaceuticals. He knew more about diseases than almost anyone else in the world, and he knew that the best way to stay alive was to stay away from people. He stood up. He was wearing a white tracksuit made of a special fabric that germs couldn't stick to. He walked across the shiny white floor. He never wore shoes inside. His socks were made of the same special white fabric. Aegis, Kevin said softly. A woman's voice answered him from the ceiling. It wasn't a real woman. It was the house computer system. Good morning, Kevin. The house is secure. The air is clean. No threats detected. What is the air quality outside? Kevin asked. It is poor, the computer said. The air in the valley is trapping smog and pollen. It is not safe to open any vents. Kevin nodded. Keep everything sealed. Double the filter power. Understood, the computer replied. Kevin walked to the huge wall on the north side of the room. It was a giant screen, 20 feet tall. Usually, people use screens this big to watch movies. Kevin used it to watch the world get sick. The screen showed a map of the Earth. There were red dots popping up in different countries. A red dot meant a new outbreak of the flu. A yellow dot meant a stomach virus. Kevin watched the dots multiply. It made him feel smart for staying inside. It made him feel safe. But deep down, in a place he didn't like to check, it made him feel something else.
Lonely. He quickly shook his head. He wasn't lonely. He was smart. He was rich. He was healthy. Being around people was messy. People coughed. People sneezed. People lied.
Here, in his glass castle on the mountain, nothing could hurt him. You have a call request, Aegis said. It is Dr. Albright from the lab.
Kevin frowned. I don't want to talk to him right now. He always wants more money for his experiments. Tell him I am busy.
Tell him to send me the reports on the new blood substitute we are making. I will send a message, Aegis said.
Kevin walked to the window and looked out. His property was huge, 400 acres of forest. Around the whole thing was a tall steel fence. On top of the fence were cameras and sensors. If anything moved out there, a bear, a deer, a person, Kevin knew about it instantly. He felt like a king in a castle. But a king usually had subjects. Kevin only had his machines. He put his empty gray cup into a special box on the wall.
A purple light turned on inside the box to kill any germs on the cup. I'm going downstairs to the lab, Kevin said. I want to work on the formula. Just then, a loud chime rang through the house.
Ding dong.
It was a sound Kevin hadn't heard in a long time.
It was the perimeter alarm.
Alert, the computer voice said.
It sounded more serious now.
Motion detected in Sector 4. North fence.
Kevin stopped.
Is it a deer? Negative, the computer said.
The thermal scan shows a human shape. It is a female. Small build. Kevin's eyes went wide. A human? Nobody came up here.
There was no road to the north fence, only miles of thick, dangerous forest. The last time someone came this close, it was a photographer trying to get a picture of the crazy billionaire, but the security drones had scared him away miles ago. Show me, Kevin ordered.
His heart started to beat a little faster.
The giant screen on the wall changed.
The map of the world disappeared.
Instead, it showed a live video feed from a camera in the trees. The picture was crisp and clear, like a high-definition movie. Kevin stared at the screen.
It was a girl.
She looked tiny against the big pine trees.
She looked like a mess. She was wearing a big, dirty canvas jacket that was way too large for her. It was covered in mud.
She wore a wool hat pulled down low over her forehead, but messy dark hair was sticking out from under it. Her jeans were ripped at the knees, and Kevin could see red, scraped skin.
She wasn't just hiking. She looked terrified.
She was moving fast, looking over her shoulder, stumbling in the deep snow. What is she doing?
Kevin whispered.
He took a step closer to the glass wall, as if he could see her through the miles of forest. She is approaching the barrier line, the computer said. Kevin felt a cold shiver run down his back.
The barrier line.
When Kevin built this house, he didn't just use fences.
He used plants. He wanted a natural wall that would keep animals and people away.
He had his scientists create a special kind of bush. It was a type of nightshade, but much stronger. It had long, sharp thorns and dark green leaves. In the winter, this bush grew bright red berries. They looked beautiful against the white snow. They looked juicy and sweet, like cherries or candy.
But they were deadly.
If a person ate just 3 of those berries, their heart would stop. It was a terrible, painful way to die. Zoom in, Kevin said.
His voice shook a little.
The camera zoomed in on the girl's hands. They were bare, red from the cold, and shaking violently.
She was holding a dirty cloth bag. She reached into the thorny bush.
Kevin watched as the sharp thorns tore at her jacket and scratched her wrists, drawing blood.
She didn't seem to care.
She ripped a handful of the red berries off the branch and shoved them into her bag. Aegis!
Kevin shouted. Turn on the outside speakers. Warn her.
Tell her they are poison. Activating external speakers, the computer said. On the screen, Kevin saw the girl jump. A loud, robotic voice boomed out of the trees around her.
Warning. Private property. The plants are toxic. Do not eat.
Leave now or security will be called. The girl didn't run away. She looked right at the hidden camera. Her face was dirty and streaked with tears. She looked scared, yes, but she also looked desperate. She shook her head screaming something Kevin couldn't hear, and then she dove back into the bush. She grabbed more berries, faster this time. Then, she stopped. She picked up one large, shiny red berry. She held it between her fingers. She looked at it. Then, she raised it toward her mouth. No! Kevin yelled at the screen. Panic exploded in his chest. His heart rate monitor started beeping loudly on his wrist. Beep, beep, beep. His heart was beating 140 times a minute. He was having a panic attack. Aegis. Send the drones. Use the loud sirens. Make her stop. Drones are launching, the computer said calmly. They will arrive in 90 seconds. 90 seconds is too long. Kevin shouted. He was pacing around the room, pulling at his hair. She's going to eat it. She's going to die right there on my property. On the big screen, the girl brought the berry closer to her chapped lips. Kevin Vane had not stepped outside his house in 5 years. The outside world was full of dirt and death. He was terrified of it. He had built this entire fortress to keep death away. But now, he was watching a girl about to kill herself by mistake. If he did nothing, he was watching a murder. And he couldn't do it. Something inside him snapped. The part of him that was human, the part that wasn't just a machine calculating risks, took over. He spun around and ran toward the hallway. Prepare the south door, he screamed while running. I'm going out. Mr. Vane, the computer said, sounding almost worried. This is a bad idea. The air is not clean. You are not prepped. Open the door, Aegis. Override code Vane Alpha 1. He reached a white locker in the hallway. He ripped the door open. Inside was his emergency suit. It wasn't a normal coat. It was a biohazard suit, like the ones scientists wear in movies when they fight aliens or plagues. It was white and sleek, with a glass helmet. Kevin jammed his legs into the suit. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely zip it up. He pulled the helmet over his head. It clicked into place. Hiss. Suddenly, the sound of the house was gone. All he could hear was his own heavy breathing inside the helmet. A display popped up on the glass in front of his eyes. System active. Air supply, 100%. He hit the big red button on the wall. The heavy steel door hissed and slid open. He stepped into a small room called the airlock. The door closed behind him. Purple lights flashed to clean the suit. Then, the outer door began to open. The wind hit him first. Even through the thick suit, he could feel the power of it. The wind howled and swirled snow into the small room. It looked chaotic. It looked messy. Kevin froze for 1 second. His brain screamed at him. Go back. It's dirty out there. You will get sick. But then he remembered the girl with the red berry at her lips. He forced his legs to move. He ran out into the snow. The snow was deep, coming up almost to his knees. Kevin wasn't used to walking on uneven ground. His expensive white floors were perfectly flat. Here, there were hidden rocks and holes. He slipped and fell forward, landing on his hands and knees in the cold powder. He scrambled up, grunting with effort. The fence was about 200 yards away, through the trees. External speakers on, he yelled inside his helmet. He flipped a switch on his arm. Now, his voice would be loud outside the suit. He ran through the trees. His lungs burned. He wasn't in good shape for running. He spent all day sitting in a chair or walking slowly in a lab. He burst through the trees and saw the black metal fence. The girl was still there. The security drones had arrived. They were flying saucer-shaped robots hovering above her, blasting a loud siren noise. The wind from their propellers was kicking up snow around her like a blizzard. She was curled up in a ball on the ground, covering her ears. But she hadn't left. She was still near the poison bush. She stood up, stumbling. She held the bag of berries tight against her chest. She looked up and saw Kevin. To her, he must have looked like a monster. A tall figure in a glowing white space suit charging through the woods. She screamed. It was a raw, terrified sound that Kevin could hear even over the sirens. She started to scramble backward, away from the fence. Get away from me, she screamed. Kevin reached the fence. Aegis, turn off the electricity. Open the gate.
The hum of the electric fence died. The gate clicked. Kevin threw his shoulder against it and stumbled through. He was off his property now. He was in the wild. The girl was trying to run, but the snow was too deep for her. She was holding one hand out to stop him, and in the other hand, she still had the berries. In her panic, she brought her hand to her mouth again, as if she was trying to hide the berries inside her own body. Kevin didn't think. He didn't calculate. "No," he roared, his voice booming through the speakers on his suit. He leaped forward. He tackled her into a snowbank. They hit the ground hard. Kevin landed on top of her. The plastic of his suit crunched against her dirty jacket. Kevin felt a wave of disgust. He was touching a stranger. A dirty stranger. Germs. Mud. Sweat. It was all right there, inches from him. But he held on. She fought like a wild animal. She screamed and scratched at his glass helmet. She kicked his legs. She was small, but she was strong because she was fighting for her life. "Let me go. Get off me," she yelled. "Don't eat that." Kevin yelled back. He grabbed her wrists and pinned them to the snowy ground. He was panting hard. His breath was fogging up his helmet. "Are you crazy? It's poison. It's neurotoxin. It will kill you." He thought she would stop fighting. He thought she would realize he was saving her.
He expected her to say, "Thank you" or "Help me." Instead, she slammed her forehead against his helmet. Thud. It didn't hurt him, but it shocked him. She pulled one arm free. "I know what it is, you idiot," she screamed. She spit snow out of her mouth. Her eyes were wild. They were full of tears and dirt. "I know it's poison." She tried to reach for the bag of berries that had fallen in the snow. Kevin grabbed the bag first. He threw it as hard as he could. It landed far away, buried in a snowbank. "No!" The scream she let out was heartbreaking. It wasn't angry anymore. It was the sound of someone whose world just ended. "You monster! I needed those. Give them back. You need to die." Kevin asked, confused. He was still holding her down. "Why? Why do you want to die?" "I just saved your life." She stopped fighting. She lay there in the snow, looking up at his shiny, faceless helmet. She was crying hard now. "Saved me," she choked out. "You didn't save anyone. You just killed my brother." Kevin froze. The words didn't make sense. "What?" "Your brother." "My brother." Tears ran down her dirty cheeks. "I wasn't eating them for food, you rich jerk. I was chewing them. I needed the juice to make a poultice." "A poultice? A paste? For what?" Kevin asked. He loosened his grip on her wrists. The girl took a shaky breath. "A spider. A spider bit him." "The Rocky Mountain recluse." Kevin went very still inside his suit. He knew that name. He knew it very well. He was the one who named that spider. It was a very rare spider that only lived in the caves under this mountain range. "He was bit yesterday," the girl sobbed. All the fight went out of her. "We were camping." It crawled into his sleeping bag. "His leg, oh God, his leg is turning black. The skin is dying." Kevin knew exactly what that meant. The spider's venom was nasty. It killed the skin and muscle. If it wasn't treated in 48 hours, the poison would reach the organs, and the person would die. "Why are you here?" Kevin asked. His voice was quiet now. "Why these berries?" She looked at him with pure hate. "Because I'm a botany student. I study plants. I recognized your hedge. I know what you planted. Indigenous tribes used to use a plant like this to slow down spider venom. It's not a cure, but it slows the rotting. It buys time." She tried to push him off again, weakly. "Let me up. I have to get the berries. I have to chew them and put the paste on his leg." "You need antivenom," Kevin said automatically. He was thinking like a scientist now. "Not a plant paste. You need the real medicine." The girl, Sienna, laughed. It was a sad, broken sound. "Antivenom." "Yeah, right. There is one. Only one." She stared at the Aegis logo on the chest of his white suit. "It's called Aegis 5. It's made by the company that owns this big house. They make it from the spider venom."
Kevin felt a lump in his throat. Yes. That is correct.
It works 98% of the time. And do you know how much it costs, spaceman?
Sienna spat the words at him.
Do you know what the hospital told me when I took Jamie there last night?
They said they don't have it.
They have to order it from Aegis.
And it costs $50,000 a dose.
Cash up front.
$50,000. The number hung in the cold air. Kevin blinked behind his glass visor. $50,000. To him, that was nothing.
That was the money he made in 10 minutes while sleeping.
It was the price of a piece of equipment in his lab.
We don't have $50,000, Sienna whispered.
We have a tent and an old car.
The hospital gave him pain medicine and told me to figure out how to pay.
He doesn't have time for me to figure it out.
He's 10 years old.
She looked over at the snowbank where Kevin had thrown the berries. That was my only chance.
Those berries are the only free thing in the world that might help him. And you just threw them away.
Kevin Vane sat back. He let go of her. He sat on his heels in the snow.
The cold was starting to come through his suit, but he barely felt it.
He looked at the girl.
She was dirty, crying, and freezing. She was willing to poison herself, to chew on toxic berries, just to save her little brother.
He looked back at his house.
It was a shining glass tower on the hill.
It was perfect. It was clean.
And it was the reason a 10-year-old boy was going to die.
Kevin had set that price.
He had sat in a boardroom 3 years ago and said, "Make it 50,000. The insurance companies will pay."
But he forgot about the people who didn't have insurance. He forgot about the people living in tents. He wasn't the hero in the white suit. He was the villain. Kevin slowly stood up. He moved stiffly. He reached out a gloved hand toward the girl. Sienna stared at his hand. Then she looked up at his helmet.
"What are you doing?" "The berries won't work fast enough," Kevin said.
His voice sounded different. It wasn't robotic anymore. It sounded sad.
Not if his leg is already black.
"It's all I have," she cried. "No," Kevin said. He grabbed her hand. He pulled her up from the snow. "You have me." He turned his head toward the glass house.
"Aegis," he shouted. "Prepare medical room Alpha. Emergency trauma. I need a dose of Aegis 5 synthesized right now."
He looked back at Sienna. She was staring at him with her mouth open.
She was shivering violently from the cold and shock. "And get the snowcrawler vehicle ready in the garage," Kevin ordered the computer. "We are going off-road."
He squeezed Sienna's dirty hand with his clean white glove. "Where is he?" Kevin asked her. "What?" she stammered.
"Your brother. Jamie. Where is he?"
"In our tent," she pointed east. "About a mile that way.
By the ridge." "Let's go," Kevin said, pulling her toward the gate. "Let's go get your brother."
The garage was not really a garage.
It was a cathedral for machines.
Kevin and Sienna burst through the inner airlock door.
Sienna was panting, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She looked around, her eyes wide. The room was massive, with walls made of polished concrete that looked like gray marble. The lights overhead were bright white strips that left no shadows. The air smelled of ozone and lemon cleaner. In the center of the room sat the Apex.
It didn't look like a car.
It looked like a spaceship that had decided to become a tank. It was painted a matte white, the same color as Kevin's suit. It had 6 massive wheels, each one taller than Sienna. The windows were black slits. It was designed to survive a nuclear winter, or a plague, or the end of the world. "Get in," Kevin ordered. His voice was muffled slightly by his helmet, but the speakers on his chest broadcasted the command clearly. He ran to the driver's side and punched a code into a keypad on the door. Beep boop beep click. The heavy door hissed and lifted upward like a wing. Sienna stood on the other side, hesitating. She looked down at her muddy boots. Then she looked at the pristine white floor of the garage. Then she looked at the interior of the Apex. The seats were made of white leather. The dashboard was a wall of glowing screens. It looked cleaner than any hospital she had ever seen. I'm going to ruin it," she whispered. She wasn't worried about the car. She was worried about Kevin. She had seen how he reacted to the berries. She knew he was obsessed with clean. "I'm covered in mud." Kevin looked at her over the roof of the vehicle. Through his glass faceplate,
He saw the hesitation. He saw the dirt on her jacket, the grime under her fingernails, the snot and tears mixed on her face. Every cell in his body screamed at him to keep her away. His brain was flashing red warning lights. Contamination. Contamination. Do not allow entry. But then he thought about the boy. 10 years old. Dying in a tent because Kevin wanted to make an extra percentage point on a stock graph. It doesn't matter. Kevin shouted, his voice cracking with stress. The car can be cleaned. Your brother can't be replaced. Get in the damn car. Sienna flinched, then nodded. She grabbed the handle and hauled herself up. Her muddy boots scraped against the white metal frame, leaving a long brown streak. She slid onto the white leather seat. The mud from her jacket instantly smeared onto the pristine material. Kevin watched it happen. He felt a physical twitch in his eye. He forced himself to look away, jumped into the driver's seat, and hit the button to close the doors. The cabin sealed with a heavy thud. The silence returned instantly. The howling wind outside was gone, replaced by the soft hum of the air filtration system. Seatbelt, Kevin said. He tapped a screen on the dashboard. The engine roared to life. It wasn't a gas engine, it was a hydrogen-electric hybrid. It didn't rumble. It whined like a jet turbine. Sienna fumbled with the buckle. Her hands were shaking so hard she couldn't get the metal tongue into the slot. She was shivering violently, the adrenaline fading and leaving her freezing cold. Kevin reached over. His bulky white glove covered her small, dirty hands. He clicked the belt for her. For a second, they just looked at each other. A billionaire in a spacesuit and a starving student in rags. Hold on, Kevin said. He slammed his foot on the pedal. The garage door began to open, but Kevin didn't wait for it to go all the way up. The apex shot forward. It tore out of the garage, the top of the antenna scraping the bottom of the rising door. They hit the snow. The suspension of the apex was incredible. They didn't feel the bumps. The 6 wheels chewed through the deep powder like it was nothing. They accelerated toward the tree line, moving at 40 miles per hour over terrain that would have stopped a normal Jeep in 10 feet. You said he is by the ridge? Kevin asked, keeping his eyes on the digital map on the dashboard. Yes, Sienna said. Her voice was small in the quiet cabin. She was hugging herself, trying to get warm. There's a cluster of blue spruce trees. The tent is behind them, near the rock wall. Kevin adjusted the course. He could see her shivering out of the corner of his eye. The car was warm, but she was soaked to the bone. There is a blanket behind your seat, Kevin said stiffly. It is thermal foil. Use it. Sienna reached back and grabbed a silver package. She ripped it open and wrapped the shiny material around herself. Why do you live like this? She asked suddenly. Kevin didn't look at her. He was gripping the steering wheel so hard his gloves were squeaking. Like what? Like this. She gestured around the futuristic car, then back toward the glass mansion disappearing in the rearview camera. Like you're afraid the air is going to bite you. You have all this money. You have a castle. But you're trapped. I am not trapped, Kevin said defensively. I am safe. The world is a sick place, Sienna. Viruses. Bacteria. Parasites. They are everywhere. They are constantly mutating. I choose not to participate in the biological lottery. So you just hide? Sienna asked. You hide in a bubble and charge people $50,000 for medicine so you can build bigger bubbles. It costs money to develop those drugs, Kevin recited the line he had used in 100 interviews. Research is expensive. Testing is expensive. The spider was free, Sienna snapped. You found the spider on this land. The land you bought. Nature made the cure. You just put it in a bottle and put a price tag on it. Kevin opened his mouth to argue, to explain about FDA approval and chemical synthesis and liability insurance. But the words died in his throat. He looked at the digital map. They were getting close. Why didn't you leave? Kevin asked, changing the subject. When he got bit. Why didn't you drive out? I told you, Sienna said, her voice breaking. The car wouldn't start. The battery died 2 days ago. And we didn't have cell service. We hiked to the road, but nobody passed. Then Jamie's leg got so bad he couldn't walk. I dragged him back to the tent to keep him warm. I didn't know what else to do. She looked out the window at the passing trees. I thought if I could just find those berries, I could buy us a day. I could hike to the highway and flag down a truck. I was just trying to buy time. Kevin felt a heavy weight in his stomach. It wasn't the G-force of the car. It was guilt. Heavy, crushing guilt. He had watched her on the camera. He had judged her. He had thought she was a drug addict or a thief. He had almost let her die because he didn't want to step outside.
"We are here," Kevin said softly. The apex crested a hill. Below them, tucked against a wall of grey rock, was a small clearing.
It was a sad sight. There was a small, faded blue tent.
It was sagging on one side, weighted down by the snow. Beside it was an old, rusted Subaru station wagon with snow piled high on the windshield. There was a small fire pit, but the fire had gone out long ago.
It looked lonely. It looked cold. It looked like a place where hope had run out.
Kevin stopped the Rover.
He put it in park.
"Stay here," Kevin said.
"No," Sienna ripped off her seatbelt.
"He's my brother."
She opened her door before Kevin could stop her.
The cold wind rushed in, killing the warm air of the cabin instantly.
She jumped out into the snow and ran toward the tent. Kevin sat there for a second. He looked at his hands and his white gloves. He looked at the dirty tent. He knew what was in there. Smells. Dirt. Bodily fluids. Sickness. He took a deep breath of the filtered air inside his helmet.
"Do it," he told himself.
"You started this.
Finish it."
He opened his door and stepped out into the storm.
The walk to the tent was short, but for Kevin, it felt like walking across a battlefield.
The snow here was trampled and dirty.
There were empty cans of beans scattered around the fire pit. A torn sleeping bag was draped over the log. It was the debris of survival. Kevin reached the tent flap just as Sienna crawled inside.
He heard her voice. "Jamie? Jamie, wake up. I'm back."
There was a low moan from inside.
It was a sound of pure pain. Kevin crouched down.
His bulky suit made it hard to move. He had to get on his hands and knees to crawl through the small opening of the tent.
He pushed the flap aside and entered.
The smell hit him first. Even through the filters of his suit, he could imagine it. The smell of old sweat, damp wool, and something sweeter, something rotten. The smell of infection. The inside of the tent was dim. Light filtered through the blue nylon walls, making everything look underwater.
It was cramped. Piles of clothes were shoved in the corners.
In the center, lying on a heap of blankets, was the boy. Jamie looked small.
Too small for 10 years old.
His face was pale, almost gray, except for 2 bright red spots of fever on his cheeks. His eyes were half open, glassy and unfocused.
His lips were cracked and dry.
Sienna was kneeling beside him, stroking his forehead. Her hands were leaving streaks of dirt on his pale skin, but she didn't care.
She was crying softly.
"Jamie, look at me.
Help is here.
A real doctor is here."
She looked back at Kevin. "Do something.
Help him." Kevin crawled closer.
He felt like an alien in this space. His bright white suit was glowing in the dim light. He felt giant and clumsy.
"Move back," Kevin said.
His voice was trembling.
Sienna scrambled back, making room.
Kevin knelt beside the boy. He looked at the monitors inside his helmet.
The suit was giving him readouts of the air quality in the tent. Warning, mold spores detected.
Warning, bacteria levels high. He ignored the warnings. He looked at Jamie.
"Jamie,"
Kevin said.
"Can you hear me?" The boy's eyes rolled toward the sound of the voice, but he didn't speak.
He just shivered. "I need to see the leg," Kevin said. Sienna reached down to the bottom of the sleeping bag. She slowly, carefully peeled the blanket back. Kevin gasped.
He had seen photos of aloxoceles venae bites in medical textbooks.
He had seen the damage on lab rats. But seeing it on a human child was different. Jamie's left calf was swollen to twice its normal size. The skin was tight and shiny.
In the center of the swelling was a bite mark, but it didn't look like a bite anymore. It looked like a crater.
The skin around it had turned a deep, angry purple.
And in the very middle, a circle about the size of a coin was jet black.
Dead tissue. Necrosis.
The blackness was spreading. Kevin could see red streaks shooting up Jamie's leg, moving toward his knee. Once those streaks hit the femoral artery in the thigh,
The poison would pump straight to his heart. How long ago was the bite? Kevin asked. He tried to sound like a doctor, but he felt like a fraud. He wasn't a medical doctor. He was a biochemist. He made drugs. He didn't treat patients. Yesterday morning, Sienna said. About 24 hours. It's moving fast, Kevin muttered. Faster than in the adults. He reached out his gloved hand. He needed to check the temperature of the skin to see how far the infection had really spread. He hesitated. His hand hovered over the boy's leg. He had a flashback to his childhood. His mother coughing. The feeling of being helpless. The feeling that touch equals death. Don't touch him, his fear whispered. You don't know what else he has. He is dirty. Kevin closed his eyes for a second. He forced the image of his mother away. He placed his hand on the boy's leg. Even through the thick glove, he could feel the heat. The leg was burning up. Okay, Kevin said. He pulled his hand back. We have to move him. Now. We can't treat him here. Can he walk? Sienna asked. No, Kevin said firmly. If he walks, his heart beats faster. If his heart beats faster, the poison moves faster. We have to carry him. Kevin looked at Sienna. She was exhausted. She probably weighed 100 pounds soaking wet. She couldn't carry him through the deep snow to the rover. It had to be him. Kevin Vane, the man who hadn't lifted anything heavier than a microscope in 5 years, had to carry a 10-year-old boy through a snowstorm. I will take him, Kevin said. He maneuvered his arms under Jamie. One arm under the knees, one arm under the back. Jamie, Kevin said loudly. I'm going to lift you up. It is going to hurt. I am sorry. The boy whimpered. Cold. He whispered. So cold. I know, Kevin said. We are going to a warm place. Kevin lifted. The boy was light, frighteningly light, but to Kevin, he felt heavy. As Kevin lifted him, Jamie cried out in pain. The movement jostled the bad leg. It's okay, Sienna cooed, grabbing Jamie's hand. Kevin backed out of the tent, dragging the boy with him. He moved awkwardly, his knees shuffling in the dirt and trash on the tent floor. They emerged into the snow. The wind hit them instantly. Jamie screamed as the cold air touched his fevered skin. Open the back door. Kevin yelled to Sienna. Sienna sprinted ahead to the apex. She hit the button. The rear door hissed open. Kevin stood up, holding the boy against the chest of his white suit. He looked down. Jamie's head was resting against the plastic chest plate. The boy's dirty hair was smearing grease onto the Aegis logo. Kevin didn't care about the grease. He only cared that the boy felt like he was burning up. He walked as fast as he could toward the rover. Kevin gently laid Jamie down on the back seat of the rover. The white leather instantly stained with mud and blood from the boy's bandages, but Kevin didn't even look at it. Get in the back with him, Kevin told Sienna. Keep him upright. Keep him awake. Sienna climbed in and sat next to her brother, pulling his head into her lap. Kevin jumped into the driver's seat. He slammed the door and hit the lock. He cranked the heat up to maximum. Medical emergency protocol, Kevin said to the car's computer. Fastest route to home base. Alert Dr. Albright. Tell him to prep the med bay. Tell him I am bringing in a code red patient. Confirmed, the computer replied. Dr. Albright is online. Patching him through. A face appeared on the dashboard screen. It was an older man with glasses and a white lab coat. He looked confused. Mr. Vane. Dr. Albright said. Where are you? The sensors say the rover is active. Are you outside? Shut up, Albright, Kevin snapped. He threw the rover into reverse, spinning the wheels in the snow. I have a 10-year-old male. Loxoceal's bite. Necrotic progression is advanced. Stage 3, maybe stage 4. I need Aegis 5 ready when I walk in the door. Dr. Albright's eyes went wide. Sir, we don't have a synthesized dose ready. The current batch is still in the centrifuge. It needs another hour. He doesn't have an hour. Kevin shouted. He swung the rover around and gunned it toward the trees. The vehicle bounced violently over a hidden log. In the back seat, Jamie screamed. Kevin! Sienna yelled. He's shaking really bad. Kevin looked in the rearview mirror. Jamie was convulsing. His whole body was jerking rhythmically.
Seizure, Kevin said. His heart hammered against his ribs. The venom is hitting his nervous system.
Albright.
What do I do? You need to stabilize him.
Dr. Albright yelled from the screen.
Do you have the onboard medkit?
Yes.
You need to give him a sedative. If he seizes too hard, his heart will give out before you get back. There should be a syringe of diazepam in the kit. Blue label.
Kevin looked at the road. He was driving 40 miles an hour through a forest in a blizzard.
If he stopped, they lost time. If he didn't stop, the kid might die from the seizure. Sienna!
Kevin yelled.
There is a metal box under the seat.
Pull it out.
Sienna fumbled under the seat.
I got it.
Open it.
Look for a blue plastic tube.
It's a needle.
Sienna popped the latch.
The kit was full of scary-looking medical tools.
She frantically dug through them. I found it.
Blue label. Take the cap off.
Kevin ordered. He was fighting the steering wheel as the rover slid on a patch of ice.
He corrected the skid, narrowly missing a pine tree. You have to inject it into his thigh. The good thigh. Not the bitten one.
Sienna looked at the needle in her hand. Her hand was shaking uncontrollably. The rover was bouncing. Jamie was thrashing in her lap.
I can't, she cried. I'm going to miss. I'm going to hurt him. You have to.
Kevin screamed. Just stab it in and push the plunger. Do it, Sienna.
Sienna raised the needle. She looked at Jamie's terrified, twitching face.
She gritted her teeth.
She slammed the needle into Jamie's right leg, through his jeans.
She pushed the button on the top. The auto-injector hissed. Jamie let out a sharp gasp, and then, slowly, his body stopped jerking. He went limp in Sienna's arms.
He stopped. Sienna sobbed.
He stopped moving.
Is he dead? Check his pulse.
Kevin yelled. Neck.
Check his neck. Sienna pressed her fingers to Jamie's throat.
She waited.
1 second.
2 seconds. I feel it, she whispered.
It's fast, but I feel it.
Kevin let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Okay. Good job.
That buys us 10 minutes.
Albright. Kevin shouted at the screen.
We managed the seizure.
We are 5 minutes out. You get that serum ready. I don't care if you have to mix it by hand.
If it's not ready, you're fired. Everyone is fired. We are doing our best, sir. Albright said, looking terrified.
Kevin focused on the snow ahead.
The white flakes were flying at the windshield like hyperspace stars. He could see the lights of his mansion in the distance, glowing on top of the hill like a beacon. For the first time in his life, the mansion didn't look like a fortress to keep people out.
It looked like a hospital.
Almost there, Jamie, Kevin whispered to himself. Almost there. In the back, Sienna wiped the hair off her brother's forehead.
She looked up at the back of Kevin's white helmet.
She didn't say anything, but her grip on the seat loosened just a little. The rover roared up the final driveway, drifting through the deep snow, racing against the clock. The apex rover screeched to a halt inside the garage. The tires left black skid marks on the white floor. The engine whined down, but the noise of the garage was just beginning. Alarms were blaring. Red lights were flashing on the walls. Contamination alert, the house computer, Aegis, announced. Biohazard detected in the vehicle bay. Initiating lockdown. Override.
Kevin shouted. He threw his door open.
Aegis, cancel lockdown. Open the inner door to the medbay.
Mr. Vane, the computer replied.
This is a violation of all safety rules. The subjects are not clean. They have not been scrubbed. Do it. Kevin screamed. He jumped out of the driver's seat. He ran to the back door and ripped it open. Sienna was already unbuckling Jamie. The boy was limp. His head lolled to the side. He wasn't shaking anymore, which was almost scarier.
He was too quiet.
Grab his legs, Kevin ordered. I can carry him, Sienna said, trying to lift him. But she stumbled. She was weak from hunger and the cold. She almost dropped him. Move, Kevin said roughly. He pushed her aside gently and scooped the boy up again. Jamie felt heavier now.
Dead weight. His dirty boots dragged against Kevin's white space suit. Mud smeared across the front of the suit. Kevin saw the mud. He saw the dirt. His brain screamed at him that he was holding a bag of germs. He felt like bugs were crawling on his skin inside the suit. He gritted his teeth and turned toward the inner door. The door hissed open, but not all the way. It stopped halfway. A wall of mist sprayed out.
Decontamination spray active, Aegis said. Subjects must stand in the mist for 3 minutes. We don't have 3 minutes.
Kevin yelled. He ducked his head and charged through the mist. The chemical spray hit his helmet. It hissed against the plastic. It smelled like bleach and burning plastic.
Sienna ran after him, coughing as the spray hit her face.
It burns, she cried.
Keep moving.
Kevin yelled.
Don't breathe it in. They burst out of the garage and into the main hallway of the mansion.
This was the first time Sienna really saw the inside of the house. It was blindingly white. The floors were polished marble. The walls were glass.
It looked like the inside of an iPhone, or a very expensive spaceship. And they were ruining it. With every step Kevin took, his muddy boots left a brown stamp on the white marble.
Stump. 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 A trail of filth.
Sienna's boots were wet and muddy too.
She was dripping melting snow onto the floor. Kevin didn't look down. He looked straight ahead.
He was running now, his heavy suit clanking.
He was breathing hard. The air in his tank was getting low. He could hear a warning beep in his ear. Oxygen low.
Switch to external air? No, Kevin wheezed.
He wouldn't breathe the house air yet. Not with these dirty strangers in the hallway.
Where is it? Sienna yelled, running to keep up. End of the hall.
Double doors. Kevin shouted.
They passed a living room with white sofas that had never been sat on. They passed a kitchen with stainless steel counters that had never seen a crumb.
Jamie let out a low groan.
Mom, he whispered. I'm here, Jamie, Sienna cried, grabbing his dangling hand as they ran. Hold on. They reached the double doors. They were labeled Laboratory Alpha, Restricted.
The doors flew open automatically.
Dr. Albright was standing there.
He was a short man with thinning gray hair and thick glasses.
He was wearing a lab coat, a face mask, a hairnet, and blue gloves.
He looked like he was ready for surgery.
When he saw Kevin, his eyes went wide behind his glasses. He saw the billionaire boss, usually the cleanest man on Earth, covered in mud.
He saw the spacesuit streaked with grease.
And he saw the dirty, unconscious boy in his arms. Oh my God, Dr. Albright squeaked. Mr. Vane, you brought them inside? Into the sterile zone. Is it ready?
Kevin roared. He didn't stop.
He marched right past the doctor to the metal table in the center of the room. Is what ready?
Albright stammered. The serum.
The Aegis 5. Kevin gently laid Jamie down on the metal table. The boys had hit the cold steel with a soft thud. It is synthesized, Albright said, his hands shaking.
He pointed to a machine on the counter. Inside a glass tube, a clear liquid was spinning around very fast.
But it hasn't been tested for purity.
It came straight from the raw venom stock. It could have proteins in it that cause a reaction.
We usually take 2 days to filter it. He has 2 minutes, not 2 days.
Kevin yelled. He hit the release seals on his helmet. Hiss click. Sienna gasped.
She watched as Kevin Vane, the man in the bubble, reached up and twisted his helmet.
He pulled it off. His hair was matted with sweat. His face was pale. He took a deep breath of the room's air. He didn't die. He didn't choke. He just looked angry.
Give me the syringe, Kevin ordered Albright. But sir. Give it to me.
Kevin didn't wait. He grabbed a sterile syringe from a tray. He walked over to the spinning machine. He opened the lid.
He jammed the needle into the rubber stopper of the glass tube and pulled back the plunger. The clear liquid filled the syringe. Sienna, hold his leg, Kevin said. His voice was steady now, even though his hands were trembling. Sienna ran to the other side of the table. She grabbed Jamie's ankles. The bad leg looked terrible.
It was purple and black. The skin looked like it was melting.
This is going to hurt him, Kevin warned. It's going to shock his system. Just save him, Sienna whispered.
She looked at Kevin. For the first time, She saw his eyes without the glass shield.
They were blue. They looked terrified, but they also looked determined.
Kevin looked at the needle. He looked at the dirty skin of the boy's leg. He had to touch him. He had to touch the infection. Kevin took a breath.
He reached down with his gloved hand, pinched the skin on Jamie's thigh, and drove the needle in.
Kevin pushed the plunger down.
The clear liquid disappeared into Jamie's leg. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The room was silent except for the hum of the machines and the heavy breathing of the 3 adults. Then, Jamie's eyes flew open.
They weren't sleepy eyes anymore. They were wide and full of panic. He let out a scream that didn't sound like a child. It sounded like an animal caught in a trap.
"Hold him!"
Kevin yelled.
Jamie's back arched off the table.
He thrashed violently.
His arms flailed, knocking a tray of metal tools onto the floor with a loud clang. "It's a cytokine storm," Dr. Albright shouted, backing away against the wall.
"His immune system is attacking the drug.
It's too strong."
Jamie,
it's okay." Sienna screamed, throwing her upper body over her brother's chest to hold him down. "He's not breathing."
Kevin noticed the boy's chest. It was rigid.
He was straining, his mouth open, but no air was going in or out.
His throat is closing up.
"Anaphylaxis. Epinephrine."
Albright yelled.
"We need an EpiPen." "Where are they?"
Kevin shouted.
"Cabinet B. Top shelf."
Kevin spun around.
He tried to run, but his heavy moon boots slipped on the smooth floor.
He crashed into the cabinet. He ripped the door open.
Bottles and boxes fell out, shattering on the floor.
Glass broke. Pills scattered everywhere. Kevin didn't care about the mess. He scanned the shelves. Bandages. Aspirin. Saline. There. He saw the yellow box. Epinephrine. He grabbed it. He turned back to the table. Jamie was turning blue. His lips were purple.
Sienna was crying, pressing her hands against his cheeks.
"He's dying.
He's dying right now," she screamed.
Kevin rushed back. He pulled the cap off the EpiPen.
"Move your hands,"
Kevin ordered. Sienna pulled back.
Kevin jammed the EpiPen into Jamie's other leg, right through his jeans.
Click. He held it there.
1, 2, 3 seconds.
He pulled it out and tossed it on the floor.
"Come on," Kevin whispered.
He put his gloved hands on the boy's chest. He could feel the heart fluttering like a trapped bird.
It was beating too fast, vibrating instead of pumping. "Heart rate is critical," a monitor on the wall beeped. "Ventricular fibrillation." "He needs CPR," Albright said, but he stayed by the wall.
He was too scared to touch the dirty boy. He was too scared of the liability. Kevin looked at the doctor with disgust.
Then he looked at Jamie.
The boy wasn't moving. The blue color in his face was getting darker.
Kevin knew what he had to do. He had to do chest compressions.
But the suit was bulky. The chest plate of his suit was hard plastic.
It would get in the way. Kevin grabbed the zipper of his biohazard suit.
He yanked it down. The suit peeled open. He shrugged his shoulders, struggling to get his arms out of the thick sleeves. "Help me," he yelled at Sienna.
Sienna understood.
She grabbed the sleeves and pulled. Kevin fought his way out of the suit like a snake shedding its skin. He kicked the white boots off.
He stood there in his gray thermal underwear and socks.
He felt naked. He felt exposed.
The air of the room touched his skin. He imagined millions of germs landing on his arms.
He pushed the fear down.
He climbed onto the metal table, straddling the boy's legs.
He interlaced his fingers.
He placed the heel of his hand on the center of Jamie's small chest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kevin counted out loud.
He pushed down hard. Pump, 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 pump.
"Come on, kid," Kevin grunted. Sweat dripped from his forehead onto the metal table.
"Don't you do this. Don't you die on my table."
"Breathe, Jamie."
Sienna sobbed.
She was holding Jamie's hand, squeezing it so hard her knuckles were white.
"Albright, get the oxygen mask." Kevin yelled without stopping.
Albright finally moved. Shame propelled him forward.
He grabbed a clear plastic mask attached to a tank. He placed it over Jamie's nose and mouth. Pump, pump, pump. Kevin's arms burned. He had never done physical work like this. He was weak, but adrenaline gave him strength.
I have a pulse, Albright said, checking the monitor. But it's weak. Keep going, Kevin said to himself.
Suddenly, Jamie's body jerked. His chest heaved. He took a massive, gasping breath.
The sound was terrible, like a vacuum sucking in air, but to Kevin and Sienna, it was the most beautiful sound in the world.
Jamie coughed violently. His eyes fluttered.
The blue color began to fade from his lips, replaced by a rush of pink.
Kevin stopped pumping.
He sat back on his heels on the table, panting.
His chest was heaving. He wiped the sweat from his eyes. Jamie took another breath. Then another. They were ragged, wet breaths, but they were real.
Stable, Albright whispered, looking at the monitor.
Heart rate is stabilizing.
Oxygen levels rising.
Kevin slumped forward. He put his head in his hands. He was shaking. He was covered in sweat. He was sitting on a table next to a dirty, sick boy. He wasn't wearing his suit. He was alive. The boy was alive.
Sienna collapsed onto the floor. She wrapped her arms around her knees and buried her face. She wasn't crying loudly anymore. She was just shaking, releasing all the terror of the last 2 days.
Kevin looked down at her. Then he looked at the boy. Jamie's eyes opened halfway. He looked up. He saw a man in gray pajamas sitting on top of him. Who? Jamie croaked. His voice was tiny. Who are you? Kevin looked at the boy.
He tried to smile, but his face felt stiff.
I'm the neighbor, Kevin whispered. An hour had passed. Jamie was moved to a recovery bed. It was a Real hospital bed with soft sheets. Dr. Albright had cleaned the wound on his leg.
The black circle was still there, but the angry red streaks were fading.
The medicine was working. The venom was neutralized.
Now, his body just needed to heal.
Jamie was asleep.
The sedatives were keeping him under so he wouldn't feel the pain.
Sienna was sitting in a chair next to the bed. She had taken off her muddy jacket.
Underneath, she wore a flannel shirt that was worn thin at the elbows. She had washed her face and hands in the sink, but her hair was still messy. She looked at her brother, then she looked at the glass wall of the room. Outside, in the hallway, Kevin was standing.
He had showered.
He was wearing clean clothes, a black turtleneck and black pants.
He looked like the billionaire again. But something was different. He wasn't wearing gloves. He wasn't wearing a mask.
He was leaning against the wall, staring at his hands.
Sienna stood up. She walked to the door and slid it open. Kevin looked up.
He's sleeping, Sienna said softly. Good, Kevin said. He kept his distance, standing about 5 feet away from her. The old habits were hard to break. Dr. Albright said his leg will be okay, Sienna said.
There will be a scar, a big one.
But he gets to keep the leg.
Kevin nodded.
Albright is a coward, but he is a good doctor.
Silence stretched between them. It wasn't the angry silence from the forest. It was a heavy, awkward silence. Thank you, Sienna said. Kevin looked away. He looked at the white floor.
He could still see the faint brown stain where the cleaning robots hadn't quite finished scrubbing the mud from their arrival. Don't thank me, Kevin said bitterly. You were right.
Out there in the snow. You were right. About what?
I built this place to keep death out. Kevin gestured to the pristine walls. I spent millions of dollars on filters and fences and suits.
I thought I was protecting life. He looked at Sienna. But I wasn't protecting life. I was just hoarding it. I was hoarding the medicine.
I was hoarding my own safety.
He held up his hand.
It was clean, pink, and manicured. I touched him, Kevin whispered, as if he couldn't believe it.
I did CPR. I touched his sweat.
I breathed his air. And you're still here, Sienna said. I'm still here, Kevin repeated. Why is the medicine $50,000?
Sienna asked. She didn't say it angrily this time. She just asked it like she really wanted to know. Kevin sighed. He ran a hand through his hair.
Because the board of directors wants profits.
Because the shareholders want dividends.
Because I told them that our goal was to be the most valuable company in the world. He looked at the recovery room where Jamie lay sleeping. I forgot that value isn't just money.
Sienna took a step closer to him.
Kevin flinched slightly,
But he didn't step back. You saved him, Kevin, she said. You broke your own rules. You came outside. You took off the suit. That matters.
It doesn't fix the price tag, but it matters.
Kevin looked at her. She was still dirty compared to his world. Her clothes were old. She smelled like campfire smoke and pine trees. But she looked real. She looked more alive than anything in his house.
You should get some rest, Kevin said stiffly. There is a guest room down the hall.
It has a shower.
I will have fresh clothes sent to you. I'm not leaving him, Sienna said, pointing to the room. There is a couch in there, Kevin nodded. I will have blankets brought. Okay, Sienna said.
She paused.
Kevin. Yes.
What happens tomorrow?
When he wakes up. When we leave.
Do we go back to the tent?
Do you send me a bill for $50,000?
Kevin stared at her. The question hung in the air.
Suddenly, a loud buzzing sound came from Kevin's pocket.
It was his personal phone. He never used it. Only 3 people had the number. He pulled it out. The screen was flashing red.
Incoming call. Legal debt. Head of security.
Kevin looked at the phone. Then he looked at Sienna.
I don't know, Kevin said honestly. But I think things are about to get complicated.
He didn't answer the phone. He slid it back into his pocket. Go be with your brother, Kevin said.
I have to make sure nobody comes in here to take him away.
Sienna looked confused. Take him away? Who?
My company, Kevin said darkly. They don't like it when people get things for free. He turned and walked down the white hallway, leaving Sienna standing in the door. The brown stains on the floor were fading as the robots scrubbed them, but the crack in Kevin's world was permanent. The morning sun hit the glass walls of the mansion. It was blindingly bright. Usually, the windows would automatically tint to block the glare, keeping the light inside soft and perfect. But today, the windows stayed clear. The light was harsh. It showed every speck of dust that had entered the house the night before. Kevin Baines sat in his office. It wasn't really an office, it was a command center. He sat in a chair that cost more than most cars. In front of him was a desk made of black glass that seemed to float in the air. He was staring at a coffee cup. It was a normal ceramic mug he had found in the back of a cupboard. It wasn't his usual sterilized steel tumbler. It contained black coffee, not his gray nutrient shake. He took a sip. It was bitter. It was hot. It tasted real. Kevin hadn't slept. After leaving Sienna and Jamie, he had spent the night pacing the hallways. He had scrubbed his hands in the sink 10 times, maybe 20. The feeling of the boy's dirty skin was still on his fingers. But the panic, the heart-pounding terror of germs, was quieter today. It was replaced by a different kind of fear. The fear of what he had done to his company. Incoming video call. The house computer, Aegis, announced. Priority level, Alpha. Caller, Marcus Stone, chairman of the board. Kevin sighed. He set the coffee mug down on the black glass. It made a sharp clink sound. Put him on the main screen, Kevin said. The wall in front of him lit up. A face appeared. It was a man in his 60s with silver hair and a suit that looked sharp enough to cut skin. He was sitting in a boardroom in New York City. Behind him, Kevin could see other people in suits, blurring into the background. Kevin, Marcus Stone said. His voice was smooth, like oil. We have a problem. Good morning to you too, Marcus, Kevin said. Let's not play games, Marcus said. He didn't smile. We received a report from Dr. Albright. He says you authorized the use of a synthesized dose of Aegis 5. A dose that had not cleared quality control. And you administered it to a civilian. I saved a life, Kevin said calmly. You broke protocol, Marcus shot back. And worse, you brought unauthorized biological entities into the secure zone. Do you know the liability involved here, Kevin? If that boy had died on your table, the lawsuit would destroy us. The stock price would tank. But he didn't die, Kevin said. He stood up. He lived. The drug worked. That's not the point, Marcus snapped. The point is that you gave away a product that retails for $50,000. You gave it away for free to a trespasser. And now, that trespasser is sleeping in your guest wing. Kevin looked at the screen.
He looked at the face of the man who had been his mentor. Marcus Stone had taught Kevin how to run a business. He had taught him that emotions were bad for profits. "They are not trespassers," Kevin said. "They are guests." "They are thieves," Marcus said.
Our security footage shows the female subject stealing proprietary biological assets from the perimeter hedge. She was stealing our research, Kevin.
Kevin laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound.
Research? She was picking berries, Marcus. She was picking berries to save her brother because she couldn't afford the drug we make from those same berries.
"That hedge is patented," Marcus said coldly.
"The genetic code of those plants belongs to Aegis Pharmaceuticals.
Taking them is theft."
"We are sending a legal team and a security extraction unit to your location. They will arrive in 1 hour."
Kevin froze. "Extraction unit? What does that mean?"
"It means they will remove the intruders," Marcus said. "They will transport the boy to a company facility where we can monitor his recovery.
To make sure there are no side effects.
And to make sure the sister signs a non-disclosure agreement. We can't have them running to the press saying Kevin Vane runs a free clinic."
"You are not taking them," Kevin said. His voice dropped an octave. "The boy is weak. He just had surgery. He stays here."
"It's not your choice, Kevin," Marcus said.
He leaned closer to the camera.
"You might be the CEO, and you might be the majority shareholder, but the board has the power to declare you mentally unfit. Living in a glass bubble for 5 years? Obsessing over germs? It wouldn't take much to convince a judge that you have lost your mind."
Kevin felt a cold chill. This was the threat.
They were going to use his own phobia against him. "Don't do this, Marcus," Kevin warned. "The team is already en route," Marcus said. "Open the gate when they arrive, Kevin. Or we will open it for you."
The screen went black. The call ended.
Kevin stood in the silence of his office. His heart was beating fast, but not from fear of bacteria.
He was angry.
A pure, hot anger that he hadn't felt in years.
He turned and walked out of the office. He walked fast. He passed the robots that were polishing the floor. He ignored them. He reached the recovery room. He pressed his hand against the glass door and it slid open. Inside, the scene was peaceful. Jamie was awake. He was sitting up in bed, eating a bowl of oatmeal that one of the kitchen robots had delivered. He looked pale, but his eyes were bright. Sienna was sitting on the edge of the bed. She was reading a book to him. When Kevin walked in, she looked up. She saw the look on his face. She closed the book.
"What's wrong?"
Sienna asked immediately. Kevin looked at Jamie.
"How are you feeling, kid?" "My leg hurts," Jamie said.
"But not like before."
"It feels itchy." "Itchy is good," Kevin said. "Itchy means healing."
He looked at Sienna. "We need to talk. Outside." Sienna nodded. She whispered something to Jamie and followed Kevin into the hallway.
"They are coming," Kevin said as soon as the door closed.
"Who?"
"The company. My board of directors. They are sending a security team to take you and Jamie away."
Sienna's eyes went wide.
"Take us away?"
"To where?"
"To jail." "To a facility," Kevin said grimly. "They want to hide you. They want to make sure you don't talk to the news. They want you to sign papers promising you will never tell anyone I gave you the drug for free."
"I won't sign anything," Sienna said fiercely. "And I'm not going with them." "I know," Kevin said. "But they are threatening to take the house offline."
"They are threatening to take my company away from me."
He paced back and forth in the white hallway. "Sienna, I need to know something."
"In the forest, you said you knew about the berries. You said you were a botany student."
"Yes," Sienna said.
"I'm a grad student at Colorado State.
My thesis is on ethnobotany.
Using native plants for modern medicine."
"The berries?" Kevin asked.
"The Solanum mortiferum. Aegis holds the patent on the hybrid version we planted. But the chemical, the alkaloid that stops the venom."
"Is it only in the hybrid?" Sienna shook her head. "No. That's the lie they tell you. The hybrid makes more of it, sure. It's more concentrated. But the base chemical? It's in the wild version too. It grows all over these mountains. It's just harder to find and harder to process."
"Your company didn't invent the cure, Kevin. They just made it convenient."
Kevin stopped pacing. He stared at her.
Convenient, he whispered. And expensive. Exactly, Sienna said. You take a weed that grows for free, you tweak its genes a little bit so you can own it, and then you charge $50,000 for the juice.
Kevin's mind was racing. He was a scientist before he was a businessman. He understood molecules. He understood patents.
If we could prove that the wild version works.
Kevin muttered.
If we could prove that the chemical structure is identical to Aegis 5. Then the patent is weak, Sienna finished his thought. If the cure occurs naturally, you can't claim exclusive rights to the molecule. You can only claim your specific extraction method.
Kevin looked at her. A plan was forming in his mind. It was a crazy plan. It was a plan that would cost him billions of dollars. It was a plan that would destroy his reputation in the business world.
But looking at Sienna, in her flannel shirt and muddy boots, he realized he didn't care about the business world anymore. Can you find the wild version?
Kevin asked. Right now?
In the winter. It's hard, Sienna said. But yes.
I know where to look. Why?
Because, Kevin said, if we are going to fight them, we can't just use lawyers.
We have to use science.
We have to show the world that the cure is free.
Kevin, Sienna said softly.
If you do this, if you go against your own company, they will destroy you. Kevin looked down the hallway at the sterile, empty perfection of his home.
Let them try, he said.
30 minutes later, the alarms blared. Perimeter alert, Aegis announced. 3 vehicles approaching the main gate. Identification, Aegis Security Services.
Kevin was in the security room.
It was a dark room filled with screens.
Sienna was standing next to him. She had washed her face and tied her hair back. She looked determined.
On the screens, they saw 3 black SUVs rolling up the snowy driveway.
They stopped at the massive steel gate.
Men in black tactical gear jumped out. They didn't look like police. They looked like soldiers. They carried rifles. One man stepped forward.
He wasn't wearing tactical gear. He was wearing a thick wool coat and a scarf. He looked like a lawyer who enjoyed hurting people. He pressed the intercom button on the gate.
Mr. Vane. The man's voice crackled through the speakers in the room.
This is Graves,
head of loss prevention. Please open the gate.
Kevin pressed the talk button.
You are trespassing, Graves.
Turn around.
We have a warrant, Graves said smoothly. Issued by a private judge this morning. Emergency custody order for the minor child, James Miller. The court has deemed that he is in imminent danger due to lack of proper medical facilities at this residence.
He is recovering, Kevin said.
He is safe. Open the gate, Kevin, Graves said.
His voice lost its polite tone. Or we will breach it.
And if we have to breach it, we are adding kidnapping to the list of charges against you.
Kevin looked at Sienna. She was pale. Kidnapping, she whispered.
They are twisting everything. Aegis, Kevin said to the computer.
Reinforce the gate.
Engage the magnetic locks. Unable to comply, the computer replied.
Kevin froze.
What? System override, the computer said.
Its voice was flat.
Administrative control has been transferred to the board of directors. User Kevin Vane has been demoted to guest status. Command denied.
Kevin slammed his fist on the console.
They hacked the house. They have the master codes. On the screen, the massive steel gate began to slide open. They are opening it.
Sienna shouted.
They locked me out of my own house, Kevin said.
He felt a surge of panic.
If the house was under their control, he was trapped. They could turn off the heat. They could turn off the air filters. They could vent the atmosphere. Kevin,
Sienna grabbed his arm.
What do we do? Kevin looked at the screens. The black SUVs were driving through the gate. They were coming up the long driveway. They would be at the front door in 2 minutes. We can't let them take Jamie, Kevin said. If they take him, he disappears into their system. You'll never see him again without signing your life away.
He looked around the security room. He saw the controls for the fire suppression system. He saw the controls for the garage.
They took my admin access, Kevin said, thinking fast.
But they can't change the hardwiring. He turned to Sienna.
Can you drive the Rover?
The tank? Sienna asked. I can try. I watched you. Go to the garage, Kevin ordered. Get Jamie. Put him in the rover. Lock the doors. The rover has its own internal system. It's not connected to the house network. They can't hack it.
What about you?
Sienna asked. I have to buy you time, Kevin said. And I have to get something from the lab. Kevin, they have guns, Sienna warned. I have something better, Kevin said. He turned back to the console.
I have a biohazard protocol.
Sienna ran out of the room. Kevin stayed. He looked at the screen.
The SUVs were pulling up to the front circle.
Kevin reached under the console. He ripped off a plastic panel. Underneath was a manual lever painted yellow.
It was an emergency system he had installed years ago, just in case of a catastrophic containment breach.
It was the purge lever. It wasn't digital. It was mechanical. He watched the men get out of the cars. Graves was walking toward the front door. Kevin pulled the lever. Clang.
Throughout the house, heavy steel shutters slammed down over every window and door. The house went dark, lit only by emergency red lights.
Warning, Aegis said. Manual lockdown engaged.
Atmospheric purge initiated.
The vents in the ceiling hissed. A thick, white fog began to spray into the hallways. It was a decontamination fog, harmless to humans, but blindingly thick and impossible to see through. Kevin grabbed a portable breathing mask from the wall. He strapped it on. Welcome to my world, he whispered. He ran out into the fog. The house was chaos. The red lights were flashing. The white fog was so thick you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Kevin moved through the house by memory. He knew every inch of this floor. He counted his steps. 10 steps to the fountain. Turn left. 20 steps to the lab. He could hear the security team banging on the front door. They were trying to drill through the locks, but the manual shutters were solid steel. It would take them 10 minutes to cut through. Kevin reached the lab. He burst through the doors. Dr. Albright was cowering under a desk. He was coughing as the fog seeped in. Albright. Kevin shouted through his mask. The doctor jumped. Mr. Vane. What is happening?
The computer says there is a bio threat.
The threat is outside, Kevin said. He grabbed Albright by the collar of his lab coat and hauled him up. I need you to do something for me.
Something illegal.
I can't. Albright stammered.
Listen to me.
Kevin shook him.
They are coming to take the boy.
And they are going to bury the research. You saw it work, Albright. You saw the boy live.
Do you want to be a scientist, or do you want to be an employee?
Albright looked at Kevin. He looked at the determination in the billionaire's eyes.
What do you need?
Albright asked. I need the raw data, Kevin said. I need the chemical composition of the wild berry versus the Aegis 5. And I need you to upload it to the public server.
The Open Science Database.
Albright gasped. Sir, that's corporate espionage.
That's violating the patent.
We'll be sued into oblivion.
I'll lose my license.
I will protect you, Kevin promised. I will hire the best lawyers in the world. But right now, I need you to leak the formula.
If it's public, they can't hide it. If the world knows that the weed in the forest is the same as the $50,000 drug, the price collapses.
Albright hesitated. He looked at his computer.
Do it.
Kevin yelled. Albright nodded. He ran to his computer. His fingers flew across the keyboard.
I'm bypassing the firewall. It will take a few minutes to upload the file packets.
You have 2 minutes, Kevin said.
I'm going to hold them off.
Kevin grabbed a metal canister from the shelf. It was a tank of compressed nitrogen.
He didn't know if he would need it, but it felt heavy and cold in his hand.
He ran back into the hallway. He heard the sound of cutting metal. The front door was breached. Clear the room, a voice shouted.
Tactical formation.
Masks on. Graves and his men were inside. Kevin stood in the middle of the great hall. The fog swirled around him. The red lights made him look like a demon in the mist. Stop right there. Kevin shouted. Through the fog, he saw the beams of tactical flashlights cutting through the gloom. 4 men. Heavily armed.
Mr. Vane, Graves' voice called out.
Step down. You are experiencing a psychotic episode.
We are here to help.
I am perfectly sane, Kevin said.
And you are not taking the boy.
Secure him, Graves ordered. 2 men moved forward. They were fast. Kevin didn't fight them with fists. He wasn't a fighter. He was a thinker.
He uncapped the nitrogen canister and rolled it across the floor toward them. It hissed violently, spinning and spraying freezing cold gas. The men jumped back, startled. The gas created a wall of instant frost, blocking their thermal cameras. Kevin turned and ran toward the garage access.
Sienna,
he yelled into his radio. Are you in the rover?
Yes. Sienna's voice came back. We're locked in.
Jamie is safe.
But the garage door won't open. The computer locked it.
Ram it.
Kevin shouted.
What?
Ram the door. The rover is built for impact. Drive through it.
Kevin, where are you?
I'm right behind you. Go. Kevin reached the door to the garage. He slammed the button. It didn't work. The lockdown had sealed this door too.
He could hear the boots of the security team behind him. They were running.
Mr. Vane. Down on the ground. Now. Kevin put his back against the door. He was trapped. He couldn't get to the garage.
He couldn't get to the rover. Albright.
Kevin screamed into his headset.
Is it done?
Uploading. Albright's voice crackled.
90%. The security team emerged from the fog. 3 of them. They raised their rifles. These weren't lethal bullets, Kevin hoped, probably tranquilizer darts. They wanted him alive and quiet. Don't move, Graves said, stepping forward.
He held a taser pistol.
It's over,
Kevin. You lost. Kevin looked at the men. He looked at the red lights. He thought about the file uploading on the server.
I didn't lose, Kevin said.
He smiled. It was a terrifying smile. Crash. The entire house shook.
From the other side of the wall, the garage side, there was a massive metal screeching sound. The wall behind Kevin buckled. The Apex rover had rammed the inner door, not the outer one. The metal door flew off its hinges, knocking Kevin sideways into a decorative plant pot. The nose of the massive white rover smashed through the drywall, debris flying everywhere. Dust mixed with the decontamination fog. The security team scrambled back, terrified by the sudden appearance of a 6-wheeled tank in the hallway.
The rover's window rolled down an inch. Get in.
Sienna screamed.
Kevin scrambled to his feet.
He was bruised, dizzy, and coughing.
He ran toward the rover. Stop him.
Graves yelled.
He fired the taser.
The probes missed Kevin and hit the side of the rover, sparking uselessly against the chassis.
Kevin dove for the passenger door. He yanked it open and pulled himself up.
Bullets, rubber ones, started thumping against the side of the car.
Thud. Thud.
One hit Kevin in the leg, stinging sharply.
He fell into the seat and slammed the door. Drive. Kevin yelled. Through the wall. Outside.
Sienna slammed the rover into reverse. The vehicle jerked back, pulling out of the hole in the wall.
She spun the wheel. Hold on, she yelled. She gunned the engine.
The electric motors screamed with torque. The rover surged forward, aiming for the main garage door. It hit the garage door at 50 miles per hour.
Boom.
The door didn't just open, it disintegrated. The rover punched through the aluminum and steel like a fist through wet paper. They were airborne for a second, flying out of the garage and landing in the deep snow of the driveway with a bone-jarring crunch. The suspension absorbed the hit. The 6 wheels grabbed the snow. Go left.
Kevin shouted.
Into the trees.
Don't use the road.
They have a blockade. Sienna yanked the wheel left. The rover smashed through a wooden fence and plowed into the forest. Behind them, the security team ran out of the broken garage, firing their weapons, but it was useless. The Apex rover was built for the apocalypse. It vanished into the white pine forest, leaving only a trail of churned snow. Inside the rover, silence returned. Kevin sat back, panting. He clutched his leg where the rubber bullet had hit him. Are you okay? Sienna asked, her hands gripping the wheel white-knuckled.
I'm fine,
Kevin wheezed.
He looked back at Jamie.
The boy was strapped in, eyes wide, looking like he was on the world's scariest roller coaster. Did we win?
Jamie asked. Kevin looked at the dashboard screen.
A notification popped up from his private server. Upload complete. Aegis 5 Formula Public Zip.
Kevin let out a long, shaky breath.
We didn't win yet, kid, Kevin said. But we just started a war.
The world was white. Just endless, swirling white.
The Apex rover was a beast of a machine, but even beasts struggle in a blizzard. Sienna fought the steering wheel with both hands. The tires, massive and thick with tread, churned through snow that was 3 feet deep. The vehicle didn't roll, it swam through the powder. Inside, the cabin was silent except for the hum of the electric motors and the heater blasting warm air.
Kevin Vane sat in the passenger seat. He was checking the side mirrors every 5 seconds.
His heart was still hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird.
He had just rammed a car through a wall. He had just stolen his own patient. He had just betrayed $1 billion company. And strangely, he felt calm.
Are they following us?
Sienna asked. She didn't take her eyes off the trees rushing past the windshield. Not on the ground, Kevin said.
The snow is too deep for their SUVs.
They would get stuck in 5 minutes.
This rover was designed for the apocalypse.
What about the air? Jamie asked from the back seat. Kevin looked back.
Jamie looked better. The color was returning to his cheeks. He was wrapped in a thermal blanket, looking small but alert. They have a helicopter, Kevin admitted. But look outside.
They looked. The snow was falling so hard it looked like a solid wall.
The wind was shaking the heavy pine trees. No pilot can fly in this, Kevin said.
The storm is protecting us. For now. Sienna relaxed her grip on the wheel just a little.
Where are we going, Kevin? We can't just drive in the woods forever. The battery will die.
Kevin looked at the dashboard.
Battery, 68%.
We need people, Kevin said.
We need witnesses. Witnesses.
Sienna frowned.
I thought we were hiding.
Hiding is how they win, Kevin explained. He tapped the screen on his wrist computer.
Right now, the board of directors is spinning a story. They are telling the news that I had a mental breakdown.
They are saying I kidnapped a child.
They are saying I am dangerous.
He showed the screen to Sienna.
It was a news alert from CNN. Breaking news. Billionaire CEO Kevin Vane missing after security incident.
Police manhunt underway.
If the police find us in the woods, they might shoot first, Kevin said grimly.
They think I'm a crazy person with a hostage. We need to go somewhere public.
We need to tell the truth to the cameras before Graves gets to us.
There's a town, Sienna said. Silver Creek. It's about 20 miles south. It's a tourist trap.
Skiers, hikers.
There's always people there.
Go there, Kevin said. Take the logging roads. The rover bounced over a hidden rock. Kevin winced, clutching his bruised leg. Are you okay?
Sienna asked.
I've been shot with a rubber bullet and thrown through a wall, Kevin grunted. I've been better.
But I'm alive. He looked out the window.
For 5 years, he had looked at this forest through triple-pane glass.
He had thought it was a place of death and rot.
But now, seeing it up close, passing inches from the window, it looked different.
It looked powerful.
Did the upload finish?
Sienna asked. Kevin checked the server status on the dashboard screen.
File, Aegis 5 Formula Zip status, downloaded 45,000 times.
Kevin smiled.
It wasn't a nice smile.
It was the smile of a man who just burned down the factory.
It finished, Kevin said.
And people are reading it.
Labs in China, universities in Europe, independent researchers in basements. They all have the recipe now. Aegis can't put the genie back in the bottle. So the price drops.
Jamie asked.
The price crashes, Kevin corrected. By tomorrow morning, generic drug companies will be making plans to sell it for $10 instead of $50,000. My company just lost its biggest asset.
You lost your money, Sienna said softly. Kevin looked at his hands. They were dirty.
There was dried mud under his fingernails. There was a smear of grease on his palm.
I have enough money,
Kevin said. I have too much money. What I didn't have was this. He pointed to the back seat, to Jamie. I didn't have a reason to wake up, other than not dying. The rover crested a ridge. Below them, through the swirling snow, they saw lights. Yellow, warm lights twinkling in the valley. Silver Creek, Sienna said.
Take us in, Kevin said.
Let's go say hello to the world.
The diner was warm.
It smelled of frying bacon, old coffee, and wet wool. To Kevin Vane, it smelled like a biological war zone. Every cough from a booth made him flinch. Every time the waitress wiped a table with a gray rag, he wanted to scream. His phobia was screaming at him, danger. Germs.
Leave. But he forced himself to sit. They were in a booth in the back.
The Apex rover was parked right outside the front window, looking like a spaceship that had crash-landed in the parking lot.
It was drawing a crowd.
People were taking pictures of it with their phones. Inside, people were staring too.
They were staring at Kevin. He was wearing black clothes that looked too expensive for a diner.
He looked pale and intense. And sitting across from him were a girl in muddy clothes and a boy with a bandaged leg. That's him, a whisper floated across the room. That's the guy from the news. The billionaire.
Yeah, Vane.
The hermit.
The waitress approached. She was an older woman named Bob. Her name tag was crooked. She held a pot of coffee.
You folks need menus, she asked.
She looked at Kevin suspiciously.
Or are you just hiding out?
Kevin looked at the coffee pot. He looked at the rim of the cup on the table.
It probably had 1,000 microscopic cracks harboring bacteria.
He picked up the cup.
Coffee, please, Kevin said.
Black.
Bob poured the coffee. You look like you've been through the ringer, hun.
It's been a long day, Kevin said. He pointed to the TV mounted in the corner of the diner. On the screen, a news anchor was talking.
The headline read, Siege at Vane Estate.
CEO accused of kidnapping.
That's not true, Sienna said loudly. The whole diner went quiet. Everyone turned to look at their booth.
Kevin stood up.
His legs were shaky, but he stood tall. My name is Kevin Vane, he said.
His voice was not the booming voice of a CEO. It was just a man's voice. That boy is not kidnapped.
That boy is my patient.
He pointed to Jamie. His name is Jamie. He was bitten by a recluse spider.
My company, Aegis Pharmaceuticals, makes the only cure. We charge $50,000 for it.
A murmur went through the room.
50 grand, someone muttered.
Robbery.
Jamie's sister couldn't afford it, Kevin continued. So my board of directors wanted to let him die. Or worse, they wanted to arrest his sister for trying to find a natural cure in the woods.
Kevin looked around the room.
He saw truck drivers, skiers, locals, normal people. I gave him the medicine for free, Kevin said. And because I did that, the company is trying to lock me away. They are trying to say I'm crazy so they can take control and keep the prices high.
He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone.
I just released the formula for the cure onto the internet, Kevin announced.
It's free now. For everyone.
Forever.
The room was silent for a second.
Then, a guy in a trucker hat stood up and started clapping.
Then another person. Soon, half the diner was clapping.
Suddenly, the front door of the diner burst open.
The cold wind rushed in. Graves stood in the doorway.
He wasn't wearing his suit anymore, he was wearing a tactical jacket. Behind him were 2 local police officers. Kevin Vane.
Graves shouted.
Step away from the children. The clapping stopped. The diner got tense. Officer, Graves said to the policeman.
That man is mentally unstable. He has abducted those minors.
Arrest him. The police officer, a big man with a mustache, looked at Kevin.
Then he looked at Jamie, who was eating a grilled cheese sandwich.
He doesn't look abducted to me, the officer said. He is under the influence of Stockholm Syndrome. Graves yelled. He is confused. Arrest him.
Kevin stepped out of the booth.
He put his hands up, palms open. I am not armed, Kevin said. I am not resisting. But I am not crazy. Officers, Sienna stood up.
She stood in front of Kevin. My name is Sienna Miller. This is my brother. Kevin saved his life.
He drove us here to get away from him.
She pointed at Graves.
He's a private security thug, Sienna spat. He tried to run us off the road. Graves stepped forward, reaching for his belt. I have a court order.
Hey. Barb, the waitress, slammed the coffee pot down on the counter.
You watch your tone in my house, mister.
She walked out from behind the counter. She stood between Graves and Kevin. This man just bought coffee, Barb said.
And he looks like a hero to me. You look like a lawyer. And around here, we like heroes better than lawyers.
Graves looked around. The customers were standing up. The truck drivers were crossing their arms. They were forming a wall between the security team and the booth. The police officer stepped forward. He put a hand on Graves' chest. Sir, the officer said, I'm going to need you to step outside. We will sort this out.
But nobody is getting arrested right now except maybe you, for disturbing the peace.
Graves' face turned red. He looked at Kevin.
You destroyed your life, Vane, Graves hissed.
You destroyed the stock.
You're finished.
Kevin took a sip of the diner coffee. It was burnt. It was delicious. Maybe, Kevin said.
But I think I'm just getting started.
Graves stormed out.
The police officer tipped his hat to Kevin. We'll need a statement, Mr. Vane, the officer said. But you can finish your coffee first.
Kevin sat back down.
His hands were shaking, but not from fear.
He looked at Sienna. She was smiling at him.
You did good, she said. I did good, Kevin repeated.
He looked at the dirty table. He put his elbows on it. He didn't care. It was summer in the Rockies. The snow was gone.
The mountains were green, covered in wildflowers. The Vane estate looked different. The massive steel gates were open.
There were no guards.
There were cars parked in the driveway, Subarus, Toyotas, Fords.
Regular cars. The sign on the front gate had been changed.
It used to say private property, no trespassing. Now it said, the Vane Center for Botanical Research, open to the public.
Kevin walked through the garden. He wasn't wearing a spacesuit. He wasn't wearing a tuxedo.
He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt that said Aegis with a red line drawn through it.
He had dirt on his knees. He was kneeling by the hedge.
The Solanum mortiferum. The bushes were full of red berries. But they weren't scary anymore.
They were just plants. Kevin. He looked up. Sienna was walking down the path. She held a clipboard.
She looked healthy, happy. She wasn't wearing rags anymore. She wore a lab coat, but she wore it open, with jeans underneath. The tour group is here, Sienna said. They are students from the university.
They want to see the poison garden.
Send them back, Kevin said, standing up and wiping his hands on his pants. Is Jamie with them?
Jamie is in the greenhouse, Sienna laughed. He's feeding the Venus flytraps.
I think he likes the carnivorous plants a little too much.
Kevin smiled.
Jamie had healed.
The scar on his leg was big, a jagged reminder of the bite, but he ran on it just fine.
How are the numbers?
Kevin asked.
Good,
Sienna said, looking at her clipboard. The new grant came through. We have funding for 3 more years.
And the generic version of the antivenom hit the market yesterday. Price per dose, $40. $40, Kevin nodded. That sounds about right.
Kevin had lost the company.
The board fired him the day after the diner incident.
They sued him for millions.
He had to sell his stocks, his private jet, and most of his assets to pay the lawyers and the settlements.
But he kept the house. And he kept the land. He had turned the mansion into a research center.
The sterile labs were now messy, busy places filled with students and scientists working on open-source medicine.
The glass bubble was now a greenhouse. Kevin wasn't a billionaire anymore. He was just a millionaire. Maybe barely a millionaire. But he was free.
Do you miss it?
Sienna asked, standing next to him. She knew what he was thinking.
The silence.
Kevin asked.
The cleanliness.
Yeah. Kevin looked at the dirt on his hands. He took a deep breath.
The air smelled of pine resin, damp earth, and pollen.
It made his nose itch.
Sometimes, Kevin admitted. Sometimes I wake up and I want to scrub my hands until they bleed.
The fear is still there.
It doesn't just go away.
He looked at the berries.
But then I remember the silence, Kevin said.
It was so loud.
Being alone is the loudest thing in the world.
He reached out and took Sienna's hand. Her hand was warm.
It wasn't perfectly clean. She had ink on her thumb, but it was real.
I like the noise better, Kevin said. A shout came from the greenhouse. Kevin!
Sienna!
Come look.
This one is eating a beetle. Jamie came running out of the glass building, waving his arms.
Kevin laughed.
Coming, kid. He started to walk toward the greenhouse, but he stopped.
He looked back at the fence line where he had first seen the girl in the tattered jacket. He remembered the camera. He remembered the fear.
He remembered screaming, "Don't eat that."
He reached into his pocket and pulled out a single red berry. He had picked it earlier. He looked at it.
It was beautiful.
It was dangerous. But it was also the cure. He tossed the berry into the grass.
Grow,
Kevin whispered. He turned and ran to catch up with Sienna and Jamie. The sun was warm on his back. The wind was blowing.
And for the first time in his life, Kevin Vane didn't mind getting a little dirty. Kevin Vane went from a billionaire hiding in a glass bubble to a man who lost his fortune but found something worth living for. Sometimes the things we are most afraid of are exactly what we need to heal.
Now, I want to hear from you guys in the comments.
Be honest. If you were in Kevin's shoes, would you have released that formula for free, knowing it would cost you your entire company and your billionaire status? It's a tough choice.
Let me know your thoughts down below.
If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please give this video a big thumbs up.
It really helps us out.
And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thanks so much for watching and thanks for being part of our community. See you in the next one.